Welcome back to Story Mode. After Flash Amusements closed its doors, I knew I had to find a new job and fast. I couldn't get one in the video game industry, so fate threw me a curveball. A big one. So it's 1995 and the music has changed yet again. And there was all the big names: Bjork, Celine Dion, Mariah Carey, Bonnie Tyler, Oasis and Simply Red. Now if that's not enough to take you back to 1995, what about these three?
I just want you back for good.
I don't know how many times I've played that in the car on full blast. Now it's probably no surprise I'm a Michael Jackson fanatic. He'd have to be one of my favourite artists of all time, and Earth Song is one of his best. Now when I think of 1995, I think of a band I absolutely fell in love with, Smashing Pumpkins.
The world is a vampire.
Oh yeah, you better believe it, I was so into the Smashing Pumpkins, I even had the same t-shirt as Billy Corgan, the lead singer. It was a new sound and I absolutely loved it. And boy was it an awesome year for movies. Waterworld, the original Toy Story, Braveheart, Mortal Kombat, Batman Forever, Die Hard with a Vengeance, Apollo 13, and Adam Sandler as Billy Madison. Shut up! Now there are some great movies there, but what happens when you get two of the most talented actors and put them head to head?
No, sir, I do not concur and I do not recognize your authority to relieve me under command under Navy regulations.
Cobb, arrest this man and get him out of here!
Well, if you know me at all, you'll know I'm a massive James Bond fan, and it's no surprise in 1995, my favourite movie is GoldenEye.
Ready to save the world again? After you, 006.
Ksenia Sergeyevna on the top.
On the top?
On the top.
It was the end of 1994 and I remember owning my Japanese Sega Saturn. Now I needed games for this thing. That means I needed a job. Now I looked at all the jobs I had in the past. Paperboy, working at mine in a computer department, having my own video game shop, and lastly working for Flash Amusements. So how do I get back into the video game industry? Well, I didn't. I knew I had to find something new. I was desperate for money, so at the time I asked my fiance's father if he had any jobs going in his work, wool dumping. Now if you don't know what wool dumping is, don't feel bad. I didn't know either. Wool dumping is basically compressing wool into bales, smaller bales. Double dumped means 2 bales in 1 unit, or tri-dumped means 3 bales in 1 unit. The problem with this is the tighter the bale, the more compression and the less quality wool. This is excellent for shipping or exporting. And at the time, my fiance's father Roy was the manager. Roy was like a father to me. In fact, he would be one of the most influential people in my life, next to my grandparents and my mum. All I knew, he was a manager of a wool dumping firm. So I thought, how hard could that be? And boy, did I find out. I was 20 years old, but all I had was games on my mind and I wasn't used to manual labour. Unfortunately, there weren't any permanent positions there, so I decided to take a couple of months off. Hey, I have been working since I was 8 years old. So I played video games, watched movies, and played video games. Basically, I was a 20-year-old. So one sunny day, Kylie's mother comes home and hands me a book. It was a Gregory's manual. It's a manual on how to fix your car or how to service your car. She hands it to me and she said, get outside, service your own car, and stop playing these video games. And she was right. I needed another hobby. My car was due for service, but instead of going to Mitsubishi, I decided to read this book and service the car myself. So I read the book, bought the oil, the filter, and anything else it needed. And you know what? It wasn't that hard. In fact, I enjoyed it and it was rewarding. What's this? I'm starting to get into cars. Not me. I just wasn't ever into cars.
Tiger Goat. good shot at the Mini.
As I was reading through the book, I saw there was other Magnum models. Mine was the bottom of the range, the GLX, but there was a top of the range version called the Elite, and it had a digital cluster like it's from Star Wars.
Impressive.
It had better seats and electric windows. Electric windows. It also had fuel injection, alloy wheels, and the list goes on. So how could I make my Mitsubishi Magna GLX into a Magna Elite? So I get together what little money I have left, I go down to the Mitsubishi Wreckers and I asked them if they had the digital cluster for this Magna Elite, the Star Wars Dash I used to call it. The man said, yep, we've got one here, you can have it for $100, done. I bought the cluster, but you know what? The wiring loom was completely different. Of course it would be. And that didn't stop me. I started to modify the car step by step. The next week, I did the electric windows.
Most impressive.
Yep, and you guessed it, I become a petrol head. What made it worse was Kylie's uncle offering me a job with him car detailing at a place known as Precar. Precar, spelt P-R-I-X, is really a play on words, meaning P-R-E. This company would be contracted by dealerships to handle pre-delivery. This means when cars are imported into Australia, they have to be de-waxed. You see, every car that's been imported, whether it's from Germany, Japan or America, has a fine layer of coated wax. This is simply to prevent it from corrosion during its long journey on the sea to Australia. So with a high pressure hose mixed with hot water and kerosene, I would de-wax cars all day, sometimes 80 to 100. So I'd be de-waxing all sorts of cars. Mitsubishi Pajeros, BMWs, Honda Accords and Honda Preludes. I remember getting inside a 1994 Honda Prelude and just looking at the dash, this dashboard was like Darth Vader's bathtub.
What's all this? Looks like Darth Vader's bathroom.
Once you de-waxed them, you would have to drive them right to the other end of the lot, and literally that was like 400-500 meters away. So I'd drive really slowly to get used to the car, to feel the car, to think maybe one day I could own a car like this. I remember having lunch at the Honda part of the lot and seeing all those Honda Preludes there. Civics, Integras, all sorts. But there was one car by itself, the Honda NSX. This car wasn't even waxed. It had some special plastic film on it because it was a special car, roughly about $200,000, and just being next to it was a thrill. Now after everyone started locking up, I just wanted to have a look at that Honda NSX one more time. I went down there and noticed the keys on the windscreen. Well, I had to do it. I got the keys, unlocked the car, started the car, felt the car, and I had to do it. I drove the car in a circle. It's probably the biggest thrill I've had in my life in a car because one, I'm not really supposed to do that, and two, I got to drive a Honda NSX when I was 20 years old. Then I got in my Mitsubishi Magna and went home. Unfortunately, the contract was only for a couple of months, but I did get something out of it. I became a car detailer at the local Mitsubishi dealer. So after leaving Mitsubishi, I enrolled in a TAFE to learn basic electronics. Well, I think that's what I wanted to do. I was actually doing quite well there, so I decided to visit their computer room and see how their IBM compatibles were. And I saw something amazing. The internet. Yep, this was a gateway for everyone, for the whole planet. The internet was unbelievable. I could type in anything. You know what the first thing I looked up? Capcom. That's it. The first thing I looked up was Capcom. I'll never forget that. And I was in the university looking up all sorts of things, obviously video game related and a little bit of cars. But the internet was a powerful tool and I had to have one. So within a couple of weeks, I had the internet. The only thing I needed was a computer.
How am I going to generate that kind of power? It can't be done, can it?
So I went out and got my first IBM compatible computer. This is the first computer I've had since my Amiga 500. And I have to tell you, it was very different. It had an Intel Pentium processor, which was all the rage at the time, and it was beige. So once I got home, I set up my computer, connected it to my phone line, and these famous two sounds followed. The first time I connected to the internet, I can't remember what I was doing. I was just looking up anything and everything, and I did not sleep for 2 nights. I'm sure a lot of us have been there. And this is just at the start of the internet. There was barely anything on there. Then there wasn't something else I was used to, upgrading. With my Commodore 64 and the Amiga, they were just computers. They are what they are. But with this, you can upgrade the processor to be faster. But then there was something else, a CD writer. Wait a minute, you can copy CDs? No way. Then I started working out I can copy my Sega Saturn and PlayStation 1 games, but for some reason they didn't work on the console. I then started to use the internet for some information, how to make my Sega Saturn and my PlayStation copied games run on the respective consoles. You need a mod chip. That's why they're not working. It was a great time to be alive. The internet, Sony PlayStation, Sega Saturn, I had it all, except a job. Yeah, those mod chips,